Hey dreamers, I'm always doing my research, as you should be doing too. And recently there's been a ton of conversation and excitement about iBonds. So in this video I'll explain why there's so much excitement, the ins and outs, and what I plan to do with iBonds. See what I did there? Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so first things first. Do you know that the stock market is about $94 trillion worth of market cap, whereas the bond market is estimated to be worth $119 trillion worldwide? So first things first, the bond market is worth more than the stock market. And there's a lot of different kinds of bonds we could be talking about, like corporate bonds, but today we're only talking about government-issued bonds, specifically iBonds. And this is the headline everyone's talking about, the 9.62 interest rate available on iBonds for the next 6 months. Wow, that's awesome. We're talking almost a 10% interest rate guaranteed for the next 6 months with no risk of capital depreciation. Now, for some folks surfing the market waves right now, that seems pretty tempting. So let's get into the details of these iBonds. I thought this Forbes article explained it best. Essentially, iBonds are issued by the US Treasury to protect your money from losing value due to inflation. You can buy up to $10,000 worth of iBonds annually through the Treasury Direct website. And actually, that's the only place you can buy these iBonds. You cannot buy them through your brokerage account or any other location. You can also purchase another $5,000 with your tax refund, bringing the total purchase amount to a possible $15,000 per person. And actually, I've found that this is the best chart to understand what those limits are. So if you're an individual, it's $10K, but if you're married, you can purchase up to $20,000. So what about that rate? The interest rate is calculated using composite rates. That means it's a mix between a fixed interest rate and an inflation-adjusted rate. The fixed rate, set at purchase, lasts for 30 years. And just FYI, that fixed rate right now is 0%. And so really, what's making that rate so high is the inflation rate change that happens every 6 months, normally May 1 and November 1. And it's not just the two rates added together. You can actually see the complex formula right here. Now, with that rate, the iBonds do earn monthly interest, but you don't get access to those payments until you cash the bond out. Instead, the interest you earn is added to the value of the bond twice per year. That means the principal amount you earn interest on increases every 6 months. So your money does compound. Let's talk about maturity. These bonds have a maturity of 30 years. It's a 20-year original maturity period followed by a 10-year extended maturity period. But the main thing people are talking about is essentially the money is locked down for 1 year after purchase. You cannot touch the money for 1 year. And if you do cash it out in year 2 through 5, you forfeit 3 months of interest. After the 5-year period, there is no interest penalty for cashing the bonds. So essentially, there's more flexibility after that 5-year mark. Now, in terms of taxes, they are exempt from state and municipal, but not exempt from federal income tax. There are some exceptions if you use this money to pay for education expenses, but I'm not going to go into the details of that here. Now, as I said before, I've seen a lot of excitement around this, and some people are, quite frankly, losing their minds. Like in this article, they're talking about the mouth-watering yields. And as I was reading through it, this guy's so excited about it, he's talking about possibly getting a HELOC line of credit in order to buy more iBonds. Yikes. Or maybe not paying your student loans and instead going after iBonds. And he goes on to say that he's thinking about building an iBond war chest, essentially a bond ladder, where he's planning to buy these iBonds for the next several years. But before we all start losing our minds on these iBonds, let's consider some of the drawbacks. Remember, that first year, you cannot touch the money. So let's say you put the maximum $10,000 in, or $20,000 if you're married, and all of a sudden you have an emergency. You cannot redeem that iBond. Another big drawback is that the rate is variable. And we don't know what the rate may adjust down to in 6 months or even in a year. So once you have the iBond, you have that nice, juicy 9.62% rate for only 6 months. And that's something to consider. But it's really more of a short-term strategy and not a replacement for long-term dividends or funds. But let's say you think, you know what, I don't care. It's worth it to me, even just to get some stability in my portfolio. Okay, well, the next step for you would be to go to treasurydirect.gov, and this is what it looks like. And I don't know about you, but to me it kind of looks like a website from 1990. But anyway, you'll see one of the links right here, how to buy Series I or interest rates for Series I. You can click on that and start to see the information. 9.62%. You can buy those bonds through October 2022, so you have a little bit of time to make that decision. You'll see that it's applied for 6 months after you purchase it, that it's taxable on federal but not state or local, that the minimum purchase is $25 and the maximum is $10,000 per year for an individual, $20,000 for married, and then you can just hit buy. Of course, you do have to be a US citizen or civilian employee, and then essentially you have to open an account in order to purchase. My understanding is it takes about 10 to 20 minutes to set up the account and make your purchase. So what will I be doing? Well, let me tell you, it's tempting. Anytime I see a rate like that, I do my what's the catch research. And I used to chase stable yields like this all the time, trying to eke out every penny I could with safe cash by jumping from saving account to saving account and CD to CD whenever I could level up. And members of my family have also owned and currently own iBonds for years. And here's all of the things that I've learned. The first thing is, just when I think I don't need the cash, I need it or I want it. How would you feel if you put the money in here and then the stock market crashed and your favorite stock was significantly on sale? Would you regret it? Or what if this is the only $10,000 you have in your emergency savings and 2 months in, you have a massive issue? That would not be good. One thing I've learned about myself is that I do not like inflexible assets, and it has come back to bite me. The second thing is that variable rate bugs me. The carrot of 9.62 grabs my attention. But if that goes down to 5 or 6%, I'd wonder why I'm not in one of my favorite stocks like BCE or Altria. The third thing is those taxes. I do like my little 15% rate on the dividends, and I'm not keen on going back to that regular income interest rate for federal taxes. The next thing that bugs me is the cap of either $10,000 for individual or $20,000 for married couple. It just means I can only put a small amount in every year, and that really just caps my opportunity. As you've seen, when I like something, I'd rather go in with bigger amounts. And the last thing is that site. Remember that 1990s looking site? Well, I have a related story for you. Recently, that relative that owns all the iBonds wanted to check in on the amount and how it's been doing, and forgot that she had actually changed email addresses since the last time she checked in. She went to the site and it said for any issues like this, you'd have to pick up the phone and call. But when she called, it said there was a 2-hour wait in order to talk to someone. She has since called back several times at different points in the day, and it consistently is a 2-hour wait. Guys, this is not quite like dealing with Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or M1 Finance or anything like that. It's really not as easy as buying and selling in one of our brokerages. So if you do go for it, know that nothing is truly free, and that this might come with a little extra work to solve any issues as time goes on. And so for all of these reasons, I'm going to pass right now on these iBonds. And I'm not saying don't go for it. Hey, it's a great yield. And if you're down for some extra work that may come with dealing directly with the government, or maybe you plan to build this into a long-term bond ladder, go for it. Personally, if I go heavy back into CDs or bonds, I'll likely stick to the ones that I can trade quickly and easily inside of Fidelity. They actually have a really great market for these. Okay, well, that's my point of view on these iBonds. Thanks for spending time with me today, and the disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, so keep in mind these videos are for entertainment and inspiration only. I'll see you on the flip side.